This is Relationscapes, a podcast where we explore unfamiliar life landscapes and hopefully start to feel more at home there than we ever expected. I'm journalist Blair Hodges in Salt Lake City, and our guide in this episode is author Shen Yang.
Not even one access child wrote anything related to their own experience. And if no one said anything in the future, we will be erased. So I felt like we have to stand out and say something about this.
Shen Yang broke the law simply by being born. It was the 1980s in China, and according to the one-child policy there, she was the daughter her parents weren't allowed to have. So they sent her away with relatives who had other dreams. What followed were years of cruelty and neglect, but also defiance and the will to thrive. It's so hard to find excess children telling their stories, so I was so glad to find Shen Yang's book, More Than One Child, Memoirs of an Illegal Daughter. She joins us to talk about it right now. Shen Yang, welcome to Relationscapes.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start with your birthday, your first birthday, actually, because that's how you start your book. You tell us about when you were born, and I wanted to hear you read from that beginning, so we find out when you entered the world, what was happening.
Okay. So chapter 1, New Year Baby. On January the 1st, 1986, on a bright sunny morning, I finally saw the light of day. My mother, with me in her belly, had been on the run from the authorities for 9 months. Because I was a New Year baby, they gave me a warm name, Yang Yang, or Sun. However, I was hardly a little ray of sunshine to my family. I had a sister who was 4 years older than me. I broke a law simply by being born. And if the family planning authorities discovered my existence, my mother would be carted off to the clinic to have her tubes tied, and our family would be heavily fined. So there I was, swaddled in a thick quilt. I may have chosen a lucky day to be born on, but I could not change my destiny. Come what may, my mother had to give birth to a son in order to carry on the family line. The family could not afford the excess birth fund and did not want my mother to be sterilized. So as soon as I was born, I was sent to my mother's parents, Nana and Granddad. They lived in Sunjia Village, Yanzhou County, in Shandong.
So this isn't the happiest birthday for you or for your birth parents here. You were born illegally.
Yeah.
Let's give people a sense of why that was happening, how China came to develop a one-child policy to begin with.
It all started with the so-called overpopulation, that they are so worried that there will be not enough food, the economy will not go well, so they have to reduce in order to help boost the economy. And in order to do some really meaningful things, they cut down the population, which is really weird because none of the countries in the whole world ever did that. And China was the first.
No.
Yeah. So.
And this was in 1971 when they first did this.
When they first did this. And then slowly things got to get out of control a little bit. And then in 1982, when my sister was born, they made it into a law that it's illegal to have more than one child.
You mentioned that your mother could be carted away to the clinic and they would actually surgically sterilize her. That was one of the things. What other penalties would people face if they had more than one child?
If you have a cow, they take your cow away. If you don't pay the fine, they tear down your houses. They take all the furniture you have. Yeah, some even worse, they take your child away. Yeah, they take it away. They say, you pay for the fine, then we give the baby back to you. It was crazy, out of control.
This law stood for 40 years. It wasn't until 2011 when they relaxed it a little bit. They said that only children parents, so any parents that had a child, could then have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, they updated it to all married couples could have 2 kids. And then 2016, they started encouraging people to have 2 kids. And then in 2021, they said you're allowed to have 3.
Yeah.
What caused that shift? Why did China, the Chinese Communist Party obviously rules in China. They get to kind of make these laws. There's no voting on this. There's no public discussion on this. You're just told what to do. Why did they start relaxing it after a while?
Well, I think this is a global issue that we are in short of babies. It's a great global issue that no one wants to have babies. And the reason why they want to have babies is because they want to boost the economy. It's a obvious, clear reason. And yeah, I think that's the main reason. It's not because they care about babies. It's just because they don't want to worry about the future.
You say that these policies were always broadcast to the nation through big propaganda campaigns. There were slogans about family life. What do you remember about these slogans? What kind of slogans do you remember?
The most common slogan is, if you have more than one child, we will tear down your house. If you don't pay for the fine, we will take your baby away. Or, let me read one from the book.
Yeah.
Okay. One excess birth and the whole family gets their tubes tied. This is quite something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see one here in the book that says, we'll come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. If you have children illegally, we will legally demolish your house. Abort or miscarry it can never be born.
These aren't happy slogans.
Yeah.
These aren't like one child is best. These are like, we will get you. And whenever an additional birth would happen, like with yours, it had to be completely secret. So a family that would have a child had to be so secretive about it. And these excess children were called black children. There's a Chinese word for that. It didn't refer to skin color.
Yeah.
It referred to legal status. Tell me about that term, black children.
Well, black children is because you are first illegal, you are undocumented, and also it's a matter of like that you hide in the shadow. And very often when I was young, when people call me 小黑孩, little black child, I thought they referred to the skin, because I was always out playing. I got tanned, and I thought they were referring to my skin, but it was not. It was until many years later I discovered that, oh, wow, because I was illegal because I don't have a document.
There's official statistics that the Chinese Communist Party has put out that say there's probably about 13 million excess children. But as you point out, China's population is 1.4 billion. So you actually believe that there's a lot more than that they're underestimating that.
Yeah, of course. I don't think everyone is registered for being black.
Yeah. So as far back as you can remember then, there was something different about your life. You were sent to live with your grandparents in Shandong. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
A lot of the Chinese terms you'll probably have to help me with.
Yeah.
But you say that this was kind of a wonderful time. Actually, you were sort of their little treasure. Tell me about your life with your grandparents early on. And I like in the book, by the way, that you point out a lot of these memories you've had to recover later on. You had to talk to family members and hear from people that could kind of tell you what you were like as a little girl, because some of those memories were just gone to you. You were so little.
Yeah. And okay, when I was born, I was given to my maternal grandparents immediately. And then when I was 5 years old, I was transferred to my aunt's home. Those 5 years were the best years of my life because I was the first grandchild ever spending time with them, and they really spoiled me. My grandfather was he was a very serious person, but my mom said he treated you so well, he spoiled you, he never laid a finger on you. Yeah, so I guess that's where I had the most wonderful, amazing. That was my golden childhood.
Yeah. Why do you think your grandpa was so different with you than with his own kids when they were little?
Because in China, we have a saying, 隔代亲. You surpass one generation and you are closer to the next generation because you are grandma, grandpa. Yeah. So, or maybe because he's getting old. And life is more relaxed. Life was not as hard as before.
Yeah. Really sweet stories you tell, but as you say, it only lasted till you were 5 years old. You were taken to your aunt's family, and they treated you a lot worse. Why did you have to leave your grandparents, though? Things seem to be going fairly well there. They seem to love you, and you were kind of their little treasure. Why did you end up leaving?
Well, I had no choice Ever since I was born, my destiny was laid in the hands of my parents, my grandparents, and my aunt later on. Uh, I was sent away was because my mom gave birth to other two daughters. I had a younger sister who was born in 1987 and a youngest sister who was born in 1988. So the burden was quite a lot, and the whole atmosphere is getting more and more serious. And they have to send my youngest sister also to my maternal grandparents. So and it was quite a lot of burden for her with two kids. She couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Especially you were pretty rambunctious. It sounds like you were a handful. You really had a lot of energy.
Yeah. I was like a tomboy when I was young.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, these were sisters. It seems like, and from what you read earlier, your parents were trying to have a son. That was kind of the main reason they kept trying to have kids, right?
Yeah.
Why was that so important in China? Why did that matter?
Well, it's very traditional Chinese preference to have a boy because we were agricultural country that a lot of hard labor were depending on the boys. And especially in the countryside, if you don't have a son, you will be laughed at by the other villagers. And my father had two brothers. The elder brother had two sons, and the younger brother had two daughters also. So they wanted to enlarge the family by having sons, of course. But I guess, I don't know, it's his destiny to have four daughters. Yeah.
Like property rights kind of played into it as well, didn't it? Or like inheritance and...
Yeah. Well, the times have changed. Who could have imagined that 40 years that girls can inherit everything just like the boys? Yeah. And most of the parents were taken good care of by the girls, daughters, instead of sons. That was quite ironic.
Yeah. So you move with your aunt's family. This was also not just a change in kind of the main people in your life. Your grandparents were sort of your parents at the time. Now you've got these new parents, but also a culture shift because you're going to the city and you felt kind of out of place there.
Yeah. And because everything was totally different. And that city is 500 miles away from my grandparents. And it's a totally different province. They speak different dialect. They eat different food. My whole world just collapsed and just changed. It was like,
as a 5-year-old, that would be so hard.
Yeah. It was very hard. I was crying like hell the whole way on the train. My aunt was so pissed off.
Yeah, like instead of feeling compassion for you, this kind of sets up what it was going to be like. You're on the train with this aunt and you're crying and she's not comforting you. She's not putting her arm around you and saying like, oh, come here, sweetheart. In fact, her favorite thing to call you was damn brat. That was like her... That's basically your name to her.
Yeah. That's what she always say. Damn brat in Chinese is called 死妮子. Yeah. She's not the kind of person who comforts others because she were never treated like this from others. So she doesn't know how to treat nicely to others. Yeah.
This is kind of where you first found out about what it meant to have Black status. You heard adults gossiping around kind of about you, and that's when you first learned about it. I can't remember, did you ask your aunt? Did you say, like, what does this mean?
Yeah, I think I went back home and asked her, what does this mean? And she was like, just shut your mouth and eat your food. Yeah, it was...
When did you really wrap your head around it to say, like, oh, actually... I'm illegal. Like my parents weren't supposed to have me. How old were you when you finally realized that?
I think it was since I started to go to school. Gradually, you realize, oh wow, I have a different name, and the birthday is not mine. Everything is different. It's fake. It's not me. Then I started to realize gradually that, there's something wrong.
Yeah. This kind of gives us a sense of where your aunt was coming from. The stories you tell, obviously, there's a lot of cruelty there, but she was also in a difficult position because having a child like you, she needed to account for that. And she had to get you a fake ID, and that wasn't cheap. It cost like $3,000, I think the equivalent of $3,000. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less the same. And you have to know it was at the 90s. The 3,000 RMB was quite a lot of money for them.
And that's just so you could go to school. You had to have these legal papers to even go there.
Yeah. And it was really... I don't know. I was so angry many years later. I was asking my parents why because I had one
Mm-hmm.
actually at my mom's sister's home. I didn't write it in the book, but it was
Oh,
too
okay.
complicated. I had one at her home registered under my mom's sister's home, but I was not living there, so they canceled it for me. I was accusing my mom or blaming her. Why? You have 3 girls who go to school, but didn't you even think one time, 1 second that your other daughter needs document to go to
Yeah.
school? She said, well, she didn't tell me, but she told my elder sister, I left her there. I totally forget about her. Yeah.
No. Oh, no. Well, it just shows you're not top of mind to her. And people might wonder, like, okay, well, how did your parents then, they had multiple kids at home, and how did that work? Why did you get sent away, whereas they did have more than one child?
You mean my family or other family?
Yeah, your family. So you
My
had
family.
sisters living at home. Yeah.
Yeah, my elder sister, she was lucky. She was raised as the only child, and she
Okay.
was 4 years older than me. So she was quite spoiled by my parents. They even take her to Beijing, to a lot of other big cities to travel. She was like a little princess. Uh, yeah, and then I was hiding at my grandparents' place, of course. And then the younger sister came. She was given to my maternal grandparents.
And that's what bumped you to your aunts.
Yes. And then my aunt wanted to actually adopt the youngest daughter. But my grandma told her, well, take Yang. She's too naughty for me. I couldn't handle her anymore. I have tiny feet. Couldn't catch her. Yeah.
Maybe that was partly why your aunt was frustrated with you too. Like she wanted the other kid, and then she's like, oh, I got this kid. Oh, no.
Yeah, I got the noticed one. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, you also talk a bit about your uncle in the book. You say that he could be really cruel as well, but he also had some kindness about him. Talk about how it was with your uncle.
With my uncle, now that he passed away like 3 months ago, I have to admit that he played a very, very important role in my life. I didn't realize this before, or I don't want to admit that he was actually my father. We shared lots of memories together. Of course, also bad memories that, can be called my childhood trauma. But I was also thinking, it also might be that when I was young, nobody protected me. So I might exaggerate it a little bit about what happened at that time. Because, because I never got people to comfort me. So I might exaggerate what happened between me and my uncle. But, you were a child. If somebody scolded you or beat you, your whole sky felt like falling down upon you. So,
See, for me to hear it, I mean, that sounds like such a huge deal. Physical abuse against children, to me, is just unacceptable. Like hitting a child, and so to hear, like you were physically abused there, but this was, again, as you point out, sort of part of the culture. This was generally acceptable, right?
Yeah. It was quite common in China. If you ask the 80s and 90s generation, if you were beaten by your parents or relatives, I think 90% would tell you yes. It's quite the norm. And also later I realized, I also asked my cousins, were you beaten by your mom, my aunt before? He said, yes. They all tell me, yes, of course. She beat the hell out of us. I was like, oh, now I feel comfortable. I feel fair.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, it wasn't just me then.
It wasn't just me.
As long as everyone got beaten,
everybody gets beaten, I'm happy.
And your parents stayed in touch a little bit. When you were 10 years old, your parents actually visited you for New Year's, and this really got you thinking about what your life might have been like if you were back home with them. What was going through your mind as a 10-year-old when your parents came?
It was a disaster because they came, they left without even saying goodbye to me. It was like a second abandonment, a second time. It felt like, okay, so they are just guests coming to visit you. They are not here to save you. They are not here to take you home. They are just here to say hello, and then they're gone without even saying goodbye or promise you when they are going to take you home. So it was a total disaster for me.
The chapter where you write about this is called A Pair of Red Boots. Tell me about the boots.
Because in the early 90s, it was quite common for all the little girls in school to have a pair of red boots, fake leather, of course. No one could afford real leather ones. And I was really eager to have one pair just for myself. But my aunt, of course, she would never buy for me. She didn't even buy uniform for me, not to mention a nice pair of fancy boots. But my mom, somehow she knew this. She bought me a pair before she left. But what's the point? Compared to motherhood, compared to having a mom, a family, this pair of red boots doesn't seem to be attracting anymore.
Yeah, you got the boots, but it was really a mother relationship that you really needed. Where were you looking for examples of mother relationships? Like, how did you, at that age, even have a sense of like what a mom should be?
Oh, wow. I had a classmate, I wrote it in the very beginning, Yuan Xiaohui. His mom, wow. Because we were not only neighbors, but also classmates. And we were even desk buddies later on. I observed every little detail, how she treated her son, like a real mom who really cared about her son. And she picked him up when it rains. She took him for breakfast in a small restaurant. She wiped his mouth when it's getting oily. And you felt like, I was like, wow, I wish I had a mom like this. And that's when I first realized how a child should be cared for. Yeah.
And it seemed to you also that you had two sisters living with your parents back home at this point. They had paid the fine. They had, kind of got square with the law so they could live there. They weren't doing that for you. And it also seemed like they were just wealthier, that they had more means, which meant they could be more comfortable, or they could have more possessions, or kind of be better taken care of. So you thought about the emotional, relational things with your mom, but also just security and not having your aunt tell you all the time, like, I'm not giving you a penny, like, get out of here.
Yeah. My aunt, she was not poor. I later learned that my uncle and even my cousins, they give money to my aunt. Actually, she was the one who's in charge of the house, who has all the money in her pocket. She was just like my father, very strict with money. If you ask for money, no. You have to beg her to have money. Even for breakfast money, you have to really beg. And I didn't realize that until many years, my aunt told me, your father never gave me a cent when you lived here. I was like, wow. Okay.
Wow, yeah.
Wow. I was like, shame on him.
Yeah.
You had a daughter there and you don't give a cent to your sister.
Wow.
I was like, okay, fine. Now I understood why she was petty, because the brother never gave a cent to her.
Yeah. And I think it's still wrong to sort of take it out on the child, but at least it's a little more understandable to know.
Yeah.
It's not like your dad was sending her money and she's keeping it from you. She kind of felt like, wow, I'm taking care of this child that's not really my child, and I'm not.
Yeah,
that takes away from these other family members and stuff. So okay, not great. Still, it's still not great. But
yeah, she was in good terms with my dad, and she felt happy to help him because, like I said, she has all the money in the family. But it's just, I don't know, maybe it's her character. She just likes to yank you with the money. I don't know.
Well, there's an example of that. I wondered if you would read this. This is on page 100. This is where one of the more traumatic times when you asked your aunt for some money. This is when you experienced your first period. So you're entering puberty here, a really difficult time for a lot of kids anyway.
Yeah.
Of shame and embarrassment and curiosity and wonder and all of these feelings you're dealing with. And also on a practical level, you need to find a way to keep yourself clean and to take care of it, menstrual pads and stuff. So this part of the book was really powerful here.
Okay. This was the most humiliating day in my life, but I'm going to read it without crying.
Yeah.
If you make me cry, I'm going to America.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do want to meet you, so.
Okay. In for a penny, in for a pound. I had to find a way myself since my aunt was refusing to give me money for sanitary napkins. That evening, I sneaked into the salon when she was cooking in the kitchen, carefully opened the cash drawer, grabbed some, and ran. As far as I was concerned, my plan was flawless, and there was no way Auntie Wenjie would find out. However, by the next afternoon, she had rumbled me. When I got home from school, She greeted me with an outburst of suppressed fury. You needn't think you can pull the wool over my eyes. You'd rather die than admit it, wouldn't you? But I know what you've been up to. I knelt in the yard, holding my head in my hands as she took off her trousers belt and whipped my back with it. You've been a thief all your life, and I've had enough, she spluttered in rage. My uncle sat at the front door and silently watched her beat me. You start with a needle, you'll end up stealing gold. If I don't beat it out of you now, you'll go to prison for it. She reached out and gave my ear a vicious twist. Own up, you stole money from the salon, didn't you? I protected my poor ear from my hand and refused to utter a word. I'll break you if it's the last thing I do. She hauled me upright with both hands and pulled her belt tight around my neck. She was exerting all her strength, and I struggled and coughed, trying to get a grip on this thing that was choking me. For a moment, I really felt that she was going to strangle me. Suddenly, I felt a stream of something warm running down my legs, and I realized I was still alive. Alive and soaked in my own urine. My survival instinct finally kicked in. I took it. I cried. If you hadn't admitted it, I would have strangled you. You'll grow up vicious if you go on like this. She let go, and I could see the marks from the belt on her hand. I squatted down and cried and coughed, feeling the red marks on my neck. Tell me straight up, she demanded sternly, still clutching her belt. What did you spend all that money on? I got to my feet, still sobbing, and went into my room. I came out again with a plastic bag and taped the contents onto the ground. My aunt and my uncle were dumbfounded. 3 bags of sanitary towels and a vest and 2 pairs of knickers with a cartoon design on them lay spilled out in front of them. My uncle got up slowly. My aunt let her belt drop. That was the most humiliating day in my life. Even after 20 years, the scene is still etched vividly in my memory. If I reach out to my neck, I can feel that belt tightening around it. That night, I locked myself in a room and licked my wounds. Auntie would never apologize to me, because no matter what I bought with the money, there was no denying that I had stolen it. If you stole, you were a thief. Curled up in the corner of the bed with my hands around my knees, I thought of my sisters at home in Shandong. They were with our mother, and I was sure they did not need to worry about vests, knickers, and sanitary towels. Girls with mothers got school uniforms every year, for sure. In the darkness of the night, the tears scalded my already battered ego. What made me cry was not being beaten, or being poor, or being inferior. It was because at 11 years old, I felt utterly helpless, terrified, and despairing of life.
That's Shen Yang reading from her book, More Than One Child, Memoirs of an Illegal Daughter. She was an excess child in China who didn't legally exist, and one of the millions of these invisible children who was forced to live in the shadows of Chinese society. Thanks for reading that for us. I know that must be difficult, and you really don't spare us any details. This is a very detailed account, and I wanted to hear what it was like deciding to put this in the book and to let the world know about this experience.
Well, I'm sure there were even worse treatment like this for a child, even worse than mine. And I think, even though, like I said, it was the most humiliating day in my life so far, I guess once you have the gut to face it and say the truth, and you might slowly recover from it. Because the more you want to bury it, the more painful you might feel. And like I said before, I was not the only one. All my cousins were all beaten like this before. Because my cousin, she told me one thing similar to this. When she was young, my aunt accused them of stealing, but they didn't. But she couldn't find the money. She lost it. So she beat them one by one. It's the same way. She also asked them to kneel down on the ground and beat them one by one. So it's like, she was just this tyrant. She was just like this. So I understood she wanted to beat me because she wanted to make me remember this and don't steal from others or from anyone. She wanted to educate me, but she used the most extreme, inhumane way. Yeah.
Oh, it could have been life-threatening. And also, the reason that you stole wasn't taken into account at all, that you needed help. This was a health-related thing. This wasn't you just trying to go out and get some candy or something. And I wouldn't even necessarily begrudge a kid for making a mistake like that, whatever. But in this case, like you needed this. Your needs weren't being met. To me, you stole out of desperation because of how you're being treated.
Yeah, we all knew that, but she didn't know. She doesn't care. She didn't even, because it was typically them that they don't ask you why. They just beat you. They beat you first. Then they discover, oh, it was because of this, but it was too late. The harm was already done.
Wow. Have you spoken with her about this incident since then?
I think it was like many years ago. We talked a tiny bit about this. She was accusing me of being naughty and steal her stuff. And I was like, wow, there's a reason. There was always a reason why a child steals. If she has everything she needs, why she steals? If you were more responsible or you really care about me, you wouldn't let me steal. But yeah, they just don't want to admit they were wrong or anything. Yeah. So.
And the book that I have in my hands it's in English. It's translated into English. Is there a Chinese version of this that your aunt could even read?
No, luckily no. And I don't plan to publish this memoir in Chinese. I would rather rewrite in fiction. Yeah, and I'm planning to do that.
Is that to like save relationships, or are there legal fears or anything? Like, what would stop you from saying, hey, I want them to see this?
I don't want them to see this. Especially my father, if he sees everything, he reads everything, he might chop me into pieces.
For talking about it?
No, because you know the chapter I wrote, I dedicated one chapter that just for him. I wrote so many horrible things he did to us, to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I want to say that, like I said before, I might exaggerate it a little bit because as a child, these things seems to be huge to you. I might exaggerate the emotion even. But
and I want to be clear on this. When you say exaggerated, you're not saying like you wanted to make it like,
no.
You're telling us from how it felt to you as a child.
Yes.
And so you're saying to it, okay, good. Because when you say you exaggerated, some people might mistakenly think you're like, oh, I kind of made it bigger than it was for the sake of being juicy or something.
No, that. I said I might exaggerate my emotion as a child. Yeah.
You mentioned your dad too. You kind of felt like you thought maybe life would be better if you went back home, right? But you actually went back home on a trip because your grandfather on your dad's side died. And so this isn't the grandfather that you lived with until you were 5 years old. This was your other grandfather. And on that trip is the first time you were really with your birth family for an extended time.
Yes.
And it was not great. In fact, your dad at one point flew into a rage and beat you on this trip. Talk about what happened when you went back and found out maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side here.
As you know, the daughter was always living on other people's roof, and finally you went back to your biologic parents' home. You were expecting them to treat you like, with enthusiasm, super care, but on the contrary, they didn't give a damn. And my sisters tricked me to buy chocolate. So I went out to buy the chocolate. When I came back, he kicked me and he scolded me. He beat me for going out without telling him, or for going out, people might discover my existence and he might get fined. So he was so worried that people might, point it out or I'll tell.
Recognize you maybe and be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, because I look, I'm sorry to say this, but I really resemble him a lot.
Wow.
So I understand. Just like I said, in this family, no one talks to you positively or tell you things in a soft way or in a nice way. They always either beat you or scold you.
And your sisters, who you didn't really know, that wasn't great either, right? You thought maybe it would be cool to get to know these girls who are
Yeah.
your actual sisters, but that wasn't great.
No, they had this tiny little flower cake. They were hiding behind a wardrobe. And when I asked them why there's no cake for me, they were like, "Oh, mom only gave us 2 cents or $2. It's not enough." I was like, whatever.
Yeah, they're not ready to, oh, this is our sister's visiting. Let's do something sweet for her and make her feel welcome. It was like, oh, you're here.
I don't even think they take me as a sister because that was the first time I
interesting.
went back. They might think I was just this little girl who came to this house and played with them.
Wow. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
Let's get to something that was sort of a relief. We've talked about a lot of the trauma here. You were also in a lot of ways a happy child and met other friends. And one of the biggest reliefs to me was when you met other children like yourself, when you realized that you weren't all alone.
Yeah.
And you were able to meet other excess kids. Tell us about some of those kids, what you learned from those kids.
I had 2 best friends who were also access birth children in primary school. One is Liu Yangguang, one is Wei Wanjun. They were all access birth children, and we share similar emotion turbulence.
Yeah.
And we could relate to each other because they were also the victims of the one-child policy. And Liu Yangguang was even worse, who didn't live with his parents and who lived under different relatives' roofs. But he was still this good student and who's always positive, who was grateful for people who give him a shelter, food. And I was like, in front of him, I always felt like I was so ungrateful because I lived with my uncle and aunt. I not only have a shelter, I have a huge yard with 18 grapevines.
Yeah, the grapevines that you
Yeah.
loved that your uncle planted and you could eat
Yeah.
some grapes. Yeah.
Yeah. So compared to him, I was like this lucky child. Even though sometimes lucky child who sometimes get beaten by the aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say he kind of taught you this gratitude that you...
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
from him I learned how to be grateful as long as people offer you shelter and food. And about Wanjun, the other friend, she had disease. She was born with...
Yeah, hydrocephalus. I
Yes,
think is
hydrocephalus. She was
Yeah.
born with this disability, and she was always having this low self-esteem. And she was always looked down upon by others and always pointed out by others and yanked by others. And I was like, wow, at least no one pointed to me and say, "You little damn brat black child," or gave me all sorts of nicknames. Of course, also because I had a very strong character. I beat whoever
Yeah.
yanked me at school. So
Yeah, people learned not to mess with you.
yeah. So I learned from her that, well, you have to be grateful you're a healthy child. Yeah.
And I liked that you could befriend her. You could see past the disability in a way because of your disadvantages. It seemed like I liked the friendship that you could develop with both of these kids. And it
Yeah.
made me realize that you weren't just completely alone in the world. You had some people
Yeah.
that you could think fondly of and have good relationships with. They were sort of short-lived though, right? You didn't get to spend a ton of time in...
Yeah. Because one dropped out of school. The other one, I finished middle school. I left Nanyang. I went back to my hometown. And and then she became this teenager, kind of out of control. And because I cannot accompany her and help her all the time, she has to fight for herself. But, I was busy with my study and I was handling my own at my hometown. So I was also this teenager, this intruder with my own shit. So sorry.
You all had a lot to deal with.
Yeah. So let's say God help those who help themselves.
Well, speaking of help too, there was a teacher who really helped change things for you, Mr. Shen. Talk about this is when you were 14, and at this time, academically, you just weren't really applying yourself. You were like, whatever. But he saw something in you. It seemed like he kind of changed your mind about maybe what education could be about.
Yeah, he was my mentor, my very first mentor, my master, my sunlight, my ray of hope. He changed my my life, let's say, dramatically, without unexpected. Yeah.
Was he an English teacher? I can't remember what subject
Yeah.
he
He
taught.
taught us English, and he graduated from Zhengzhou University back then, majored in English. He was very cool, He was not the
Yeah.
traditional teacher who just read the textbooks. He was very cool, and the way he taught us was very creative.
Yeah, what was different? What set him apart from other teachers?
Oh, wow. He was like a friend to us. It was like a big brother. He just pointed out, underlines the most important points in the textbooks and then teaches us how to pronounce it. And then he would just tell you, okay, you need to recite all this. You need to listen to the tape over and over again to cultivate your intonation, to really cultivate how to pronounce everything instead of just preparing for the exams.
Yeah.
And then later he would just teach for 20 or 15 minutes. And then the rest, 20 or 25 minutes, he would just tell you all sorts of other things. And
When you're not used to that.
Yeah, but we all love it. But some good students don't. Some good students.
You point out like these goodies on the front row, these front row students who are used to teachers who they could know how to please a teacher.
Yeah.
If they do these particular things,
Yeah.
then they get this outcome. And they weren't getting that with him. He saw education on a more personal level, and they didn't like that. And that's when they started to actually try to get rid of him. They succeeded.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I always thought he was what God sent to me to save me, and then he finished his mission. He just left.
Yeah. I'll read this. What he said to you before he left. I'll read this. He resigned because of all the protests against him, but before he left, he said to you, "I'm leaving, but don't get upset. If I hadn't been pushed out today, I would have left sooner or later anyway. I have my dream, and now I'm going off to be the real me. You're my star student. Remember, you're in charge of your own learning, and you should learn because you love it, and work hard because you want to, not because the teacher or your parents make you, or because you have to take the exams. Give it your best efforts, and the day will come when you make a name for yourself. And as long as you remember your old teacher, I'll be happy."
Yeah.
So there was that personal, that's great to have a teacher that's so personal and encouraging to you.
Yeah. I still remember him until now. His name is Shen Yang. The same pronunciation, Shen, but not the same character.
Okay. I wonder whatever happened to him. Did you ever hear? Is there even any way where you could find him?
If I go to the police station, and I might find him, but because back then we don't have email or computer to, or QQ or anything like a WeChat, anything like that. So no, but who knows? Maybe I will try in the future.
Yeah. Okay, so when you turn 16, things actually get bad enough at your aunt's house that you actually called your dad at this point and said that you wanted to go home. And I was surprised that your parents did bring you back at that point. What had changed by the time you were 16 to where they would say, okay, you can come back and live with us?
Because they promised me when I went back home the first time, they promised me that when you finish primary school, you could come back. And then when I finished primary school, they told me, they find this lame excuse because they are torn down the village. They are going to build new apartments. So once the new apartments are done, you can come back, live in new houses. I was like, lame. I don't care where I live. Even if I live in the most shabby place, I don't care. I just want to go back. But they said you have to stay. I don't have a choice. So I stayed another 3 years, which was a disaster because I was this teenager. And and it's
You weren't the compliant, quiet little person.
No.
Yeah.
And to make things worse, I was only 1 year older than my younger sister and 2 years younger than my youngest sister. So 3 teenagers at home. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it could be really tough. Those can be really tough years. And when you went back, you're 16 now, so you're bringing all the work of a teenager into that home. And you start talking to your sisters at this point, and this is where you're talking to each other about maybe who had it worse.
It was really hard for them to relate and agree with me because they didn't really try to put themselves into my shoes for 1 second. And or maybe because I didn't make myself clear, I was always angry or alone by myself. I don't want to argue. I give up. I just want to be alone. I don't want to Yeah, I felt like it was useless to talk to them. No one can understand me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like they tried to. And meanwhile, your dad, you found out he was really terrible to live with. You talk about
Oh, yeah.
chain smoking in the living room and
Oh,
not
yeah.
caring about anybody else, being really stingy with money,
Yeah.
not letting people use the air conditioning unit. He would keep the TV on constantly.
Yeah.
You say he was the ultimate selfish man.
Exactly. And he is still like that. And
Wow.
I flipped his table over when I took my aunt home 3 months ago.
Really?
We had a huge fight.
Really?
Argument, yes. He was still
Wow.
like that, and even at his 70s. And I couldn't
Wow.
bear it anymore. He told me, get lost. I told him I would never ever step into this house. Even when he passed
Wow.
away, nobody tells me. That's my last sentence in that house.
Wow. So this is just recently.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody's lost here, let me kind of put the pieces together here. So you recently visited China a couple months ago for the funeral of the uncle who raised you. He was basically like a father to you.
Yes.
And while you were there, you took your aunt back to your birth father's place.
Yeah.
And you were staying there, and you and your birth father got into it. There was arguments there.
Yeah. He was really unpleasant to live with. The reason why I took my aunt home was because I want her to feel closer to the Shen family because her husband passed away.
Right.
And I want her to feel like, you still have a home in your hometown. You have all the siblings there. That's why I took her back home. It was quite interesting because when I was young, she took me back home. Now that her husband passed away, I took her home. She felt like a little girl. Well, I felt like this adult. So our position changed. But it was really difficult to live with my father because he was just purely unpleasant. But my cousin, my male cousin, my aunt's son, he was against all this. He was like, one time he was drunk and he called me. It was like weeks ago. He said, you have to forgive my uncle. You have to be in good terms with him. You have to blah, blah, blah. I was like, can you please shut up? You never experienced how under the same roof with your uncle. You didn't know anything about him. Can you please don't say anything? I said, sometimes you also vent about your mom. You are also not in good terms with your mom. So you have no right to tell me.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I treat my mom well. I said, yes, you don't have a choice. I have choice. I can choose which one is my father, which one is my mother. I have two. I can choose. He was like dumbfounded. He was speechless.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, you don't have a choice.
That really gets at the heart of what this one-child policy did in terms of what your family could be. Wow.
Yeah.
When you got in the fight with your dad on this last trip, do you remember what was it about?
He was just pure annoying. He has no control of his own mouth. He could flip out for the most small things in our daily life. And the reason I argued with him was because it was quite complicated because our relative was treating my aunt and him, but he called his friends to come. And that friend was very annoying. They all don't like him. But he called him to come and join them without consulting anyone. And he was not even treating. He was not the one who pays for the dinner. So everybody was not happy. And then when they went back home, my mom just said one thing, why you ask him to come? He was immediately flipped out. He was like, it's none of your business. You f*** off, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's not the right way to talk to my mom. That's not the right way to treat your family members. Why you are talking like this? And then he started to get angry with me and we started to argue.
And everything. What did your aunt think? Does she still feel that she could go back and visit? Or was your aunt just, oh, maybe that's not a good situation?
No, my aunt was in good terms with her brother. She was even defending for him. But in the end, she told him to shut up.
And she could maybe do that because of her relationship with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, I could choose which one is my mom, which one is my dad. I choose to treat my aunt and my uncle well instead of my biological parents.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was surprised when So you had gone back to live with your parents when you were 16, and then when you were 18, you decided to go back and visit your aunt and uncle. And you'd had so many difficult experiences there that I was surprised that you went back, and so were they.
Yeah. I guess time healed everything. And also, I haven't seen them stubbornly. I feel refused to go back until, 3 years later. And then they realized I changed, or they realized that they shouldn't have treated me like that. So we started to open up to each other, and I started to know more about their own history when they were young, what happened to them. As I know more, I felt like, okay, they had no choice. They never had love. They never learned from anyone how to communicate with others nicely.
Yeah, they weren't a couple who, it wasn't this fairy tale romance where they were young and they met each other and fell in love and got married and wanted to have a family. Like, you learned that their life was very different.
You have to delete fell in love. Nobody fell in love with anyone.
Yeah, that wasn't what it was.
They got married was because one couldn't find a wife, one couldn't find a husband because of their so-called bad political family background, because they both came from big landlord family, and they were looked down upon by the farmers, and they couldn't get jobs. Like my uncle, he couldn't even go to university. He was the top student, but he couldn't even go to university because of this. Yeah.
Did he become proud of you because you ended up falling in love with literature, had a very successful education, you're very educated? Did he, I don't know, I guess, maybe he could feel jealous or something. I don't know. How did he feel about that? Because you got to do a lot of the things that he didn't.
He was quite proud and very happy for me when I showed him More Than One Child, my debut book. He was, I can see he was genuinely happy for me. To be honest, I had his manuscript. He also wrote something about his past. Yeah. It was quite interesting. And I was just discussing this with my husband the other day, that I might not admit it, but subconsciously or gradually when I was young, I took this literature part from my uncle because he was always the one who was reading. He later on, he self-studied and he graduated from Henan University, graduated in ancient literature, 古典文学, something like this. Yeah, so I have to admit, I'm very happy I lived with my uncle, because my father is a man who never reads. And they don't have this family environment or atmosphere that you can see a man or a woman reading. But my uncle, he was constantly reading. I guess that subconsciously affected me.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you had this teacher that was inspirational. And then I think you're probably sort of naturally inclined then to you love words. You love reading, and you've been able to make a life with this. And this reminds me of a passage that I had asked you to read. This is on page 223.
Okay.
Where you talk about feeling lucky by comparison.
Okay. I had always known that I was lucky compared to other excess birth children, those who were abandoned or died at birth. I had the love of Nana and Granddad for the first 5 years of my life. And with them, I lived happy and carefree. Thanks to their love, I had a sunny personality as a little girl. I was incredibly fortunate to be able to live with them. If it had not been for those early years with them, if I had gone straight to my uncle and aunt, I would have been a very different person. It was only much later that I learned that my uncle had lost his mother at the age of 3 and had had a loveless childhood too. He was forced to drop out of school because of his family's bad political background. He was a depressed and frustrated man when he married my aunt, a near illiterate woman with a vile temper. There was a time when I hated them so much, hated them for taking me in and making me suffer, hated them for ruining my happy childhood. I used to long to go home and leave this loveless family. As I grew up, I began to understand how they had suffered, and I came to terms with the past. The government's family planning policy left an indelible mark on the lives of that generation. Although the one-child per family era has ended, the wounds it inflicted over the 3 decades have not healed.
So as we said, the policies have changed, but it doesn't change all of the experiences and all of the hardships that so many people like yourself faced. Are you in touch with groups and communities of excess children at this point?
Yeah. Ever since the book was published, I received lots of emails and messages from people around the whole world, not only excess-born children, but also children who were abused or had childhood trauma, even foreigners, not just Chinese. So I felt, and they shared their experiences with me, and I felt so close to them. And also later on, girls who were adopted abroad because of this policy, they also reached out, and I met lots of Chinese girls who were adopted abroad, and we talked, we added each other on WeChat, we became friends. You felt not alone. You felt like, wow, I'm not the only victim. We are like a whole army of excess birth children. And I was really happy I get a chance to voice out my experience and then arouse other people's memory of their own childhood. And like I said, so far, not even one excess child wrote anything related to their own experience. And if no one said anything in the future, we will be erased. No one would know that, because everybody talk about only children in China. They all say, wow, they are the victims of the one-child policy. And no one even mentioning anything about us.
Right.
Yeah, so I felt like we have to stand out and say something about this.
I'm so glad you wrote the book, because I've been looking for books on the one-child policy, and I found some academic books, but I really wanted to find a book by someone who had been through it, and yours is the only book I found. And that was kind of scary, because I thought, if this isn't like a good book, then what am I going to do? But I read the book, and it's an absolutely outstanding book. And people might wonder why there aren't more books, because there's got to be so many really powerful stories that could be told. So, where are all the books?
Not every excess child, like me or any other girls who could have the power to heal by themselves, who could recover from the trauma. Not everyone wants to go back to times and disclose the scar and feel painful again. It was really hard for me, not to mention others. So whoever has the gut to do anything related to this, to say something about what happened to them, it really took a lot of courage. So I wrote something. I wrote a book. There were other people who use art to. Yeah, there was a girl who had an art exhibition, and she, it was very powerful. There was one sentence called, "I was born illegal and I was sentenced to live."
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And there's another boy who's also excess child who is also doing documentary, and there are other girls who are doing podcasts. So you see, even though there are no other books coming out, but at least there are other forms.
Yeah. Now, you don't live in China anymore. Is that a factor as well? Could there be political difficulties if people told their stories?
Before, it might be political reasons, but as I discovered, it all depends on how you describe it and how you write it, and to what extent you tell the story. So I'm thinking to write a fiction now, and I'm working on lots of materials, gathering lots of information, and hopefully one day it can come out in China mainland, because I'm sure there will be lots of people who are interested in this topic, because this book was at Shanghai Garden Books. Garden Books only sells Western books. And I have like 30 books there last year, and it was sold out within 1 month. Lots of Chinese people who understand English, they were very interested in this, and some even contact me, and we had chat, became friends. It was quite interesting, and one friend told me, "I don't think you have anything against the government. I think it can be published in China." I said, "Okay, fiction, no non-fiction, because I don't want my aunt or my father read anything." Yeah.
you talk about the government side of it just at the very beginning. You're pretty straightforward about what the policies were, and you talk about, but this is mostly about your family. So do you think it could have been harder if you were like, okay, the current party it shares responsibility in this suffering, and let's, calling for a revolution or something maybe could be, could cause
Revolution.
problems.
Well, people all have this stereotype that China is a country that don't allow you to say anything. But no, it's not. It's not like this.
Okay.
You have some certain amount of freedom to say the truth, but in a subtle way. And all depends on how you say it. Like Mo Yan's frog. Mo Yan is quite famous, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He wrote one related to the family planning policy called Frog. And it was quite brutal, I have to say, some parts. But he managed to publish. There's no problem in publishing these kind of books. But maybe for me, like I said, people say, oh, it's related to one-child policy. No, we don't want to publish this. I think another reason was because I was nobody. I was not Mo Yan. When you were nobody, whatever you say, they don't want to publish.
They're like, you're not famous enough for us. So, okay.
Who wants to hear a mediocre little black child's story? We don't want to hear your story.
Oh, I wish they would read it because it's so good. Was it hard working with the translator? Nikki Harmon is the translator.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's just ideas that are really difficult to put into other languages. Even if you can find equivalent words, it doesn't necessarily mean that the feeling is carried across.
Nikki Harmon was amazing, is amazing, and she is the best English-Chinese translator so far, and her translation was very vivid. I might not an expert on English, but whenever she did her drafts about the translation, one chapter after another chapter, I did proofreading for her, and I consult with her. We did a lot of discussion. So I have to say this book was quite accurate to the original texts. And she was amazing. She was the best translator I've ever known.
Oh, good.
What do you think of the translation?
Well, it's funny. It seemed British to me. Is she British?
Yeah.
Okay, so so I could kind of pick up on that. But I thought it was very vivid and well written. The story you tell is compelling. You're the one who decided on the narrative arc and like when you were going to take us to what scenes you would focus on and how the story would move along, the pacing of the story. And it is a really well-told story. It's very, very compelling. It was a page-turner. It was one that, like, I would get to the end of a chapter and look at and be like, oh, I don't have time to go to the next chapter, but I want to so bad.
Thank you so much for spending so much time reading these and doing this program. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, the last question I have about it is, how's your family now? You're married, you mentioned. Do you want to have kids? Have you thought about, like, where are you at in terms of what you want family to be like for you now?
I used to had very hard times with my sisters and my biological parents and my aunt and my uncle and my cousins. I used to hate everyone. I used to argue and fight with everyone when I was young. But now I'm almost 40 years old. I was more zen, I was more calm, or more focused on myself. And I when I realized that, I was like, why I was so stupid? Why I argue with those idiots? But my sister, who was very positive, she told me, thank you, Yang. Thank you. It was because of you. You argued with us. You fight for your rights that we realized we did something wrong to you. We didn't put ourselves into your shoes. And then now that we all have children, they all have their own children now. We understood you even more, because I could not even imagine I just gave my child away to someone. And I couldn't help thinking about my child if I give my child away. So we could relate to you more, and we are really sorry for what happened to you. So, and I'm very grateful that they said all these things to me, because it healed me somehow. I felt like, wow, thank you for your understanding. I don't crave for mother love, father love anymore. I had all the love I was craving for when I was young. And now that I'm almost 40 years old, I have my own family. Of course, I want to have my own child, but we've been trying for 2 or 3 years. It didn't come. So,
Right.
if it comes, it comes. We will be friends and start a happy family like yours. But if it doesn't come, I will just focus on myself and treat my nieces and nephews well. And my
Oh,
books.
good.
My books are all my children. So,
Oh, good. It sounds like just being seen by your relatives was healing then. You felt understood. You're like, okay, they get it.
Yeah. Another important thing my cousin mentioned. He said, there's only one thing in your heart. I said, what? Tell me. I don't know. There's only one thing. You always felt abandoned. You held a grudge on your parents. I said, dude, I didn't hold a grudge against anyone anymore. I don't care if they abandon me. I just want them to say sorry. Sincerely.
Yeah.
That's it. Enough. I don't want anything from them. I don't even want them to kiss me, give me money, give me a hug. I just want them sincerely admit their mistakes. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like your father probably won't get there. I'm sorry to hear about how difficult that was. With your mom, was it pretty good?
With my mom was okay. And the funny thing was that all my sisters now, they were all criticizing my mom. And she realized how crap she was. I'm really happy my sisters are all defending me now. Yeah.
Well, we always like to conclude with regrets, challenges, and surprises. This is a moment for you to think about the book itself. If there's anything that you would change about it now that it's out, like if you regret anything about the book, or what the hardest part about writing it was, or if something surprised you while you were writing it, something new you discovered or learned about yourself. And you can speak to any of those. You don't have to speak to all three. Regrets, challenges, or surprises?
Challenge was definitely something because during the process of writing this book, I cried like hell in the room all by myself because it was like traveling back to the trauma you had when you were young. It was really, really hard. Can you imagine someone crying like an idiot in the house by herself?
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Did you talk to a therapist about it at all?
No, because it's not common in China to talk to a therapist, and also we don't have money for a therapist. But what I did was talk with friends, with relatives, like my sisters.
Oh, good.
I don't want to change anything. At a certain point, I regretted of writing so much bad things about my father. I felt like, oh, maybe he was not so crap. And then the next day he pissed me off. I was like, oh, I did well, served him right.
You're like, I could have done more.
I could have done more. So I didn't regret anything, and I'm grateful, and I'm happy that I wrote everything down. It was like a closure. And it was also somehow one friend told me that you basically let your grandparents, your uncle and your aunt lived forever because the whole world know them now. They were nobody, but you made their story stay.
And I hope more people read your story. It's called More Than One Child, Memoirs of an Illegal Daughter by Shen Yang. And Yang, I loved reading your book. I'm really excited also to see what else you publish and to see what other work you do. So good luck with all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you.
I wish you all the best for your podcast. You are doing the most meaningful thing in the world.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of Relationscapes. And if you enjoyed this one, there's a few fellow traveler episodes you can check out. Stories of unbelievable childhoods. Try Guinevere Turner's episode, Coming of Age in a Cult and Beyond, or Jesse Hempel's episode, One Big Closeted Family. And if you're enjoying the podcast, would you take a second to rate and review it? It's really easy to do. Just go to Apple Podcasts, look up the show, scroll down, hit ratings and reviews. Let me know your thoughts. It helps me let guests know what the show's all about, and it also helps us find new listeners. And I just like reading what you have to say about the show, too. And you can also rate the show on Spotify, by the way. Mates of State provides our theme song. I'm your host, journalist Blair Hodges in Salt Lake City, and I'll see you next time.